Lagunya belum? Lagu siapa ya lagu ya? Bengawan Solo atau New York?
Bu, biasanya.
Tidak ada lagunya ya?
Waktu diupload.
Bayang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. The Honorable Rector of State University of Surabaya, the Dean of the Faculty of Languages and Arts, the Head of English Department and English Language and Literature Department, the lecturers, and all participants of the webinar 9 held by the English Department, Faculty of Languages and Arts, State University of Surabaya. My name is Ali Mustafa, and I'm the host of this webinar today. I should like to say that I'm very happy now, since the participants of this webinar come from many different professions. They are teachers, lecturers, graduate students, researchers, journalists, and many more. And from a variety of institutions like schools, universities, research centers, and so on. And also from many regions throughout the country. And even from other countries such as Thailand and China and other countries. I should like to say welcome to our webinar. This is a very wonderful webinar because this is the last session of our webinar. Thank you so much for making the time to join us this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, this event is going to be the last session, and it will be presenting a very good topic indeed. That is trends and challenges of creative writing in the digital era. And yet before beginning the webinar session, let us first listen to the singing of our national anthem, Indonesia Raya, and Mars Unesa. thank you very much for listening our national anthem and Mars UNESA. Ladies and gentlemen, we proceed to the next agenda. That is the opening speech by the Rector of the State University of Surabaya. On behalf of the Rector of UNESA, the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs will be delivering the speech. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Professor Bambang Yulianto. Prof. Bambang, time is yours.
Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hadirin yang kami hormati, Bapak Ibu, perkenankan saya akan membacakan sambutan Rektor. Dan yang pertama sekali Pak Rektor menyampaikan secara lisan tadi, mohon maaf dan mohon izin untuk tidak bisa terlibat pada acara yang luar biasa ini, karena beliau saat ini masih di laboratorium Merdeka Belajar yang dimiliki oleh UNESA untuk acara persiapan pengukuhan guru besar maupun persiapan pengukuhan mahasiswa baru tahun 2020 yang akan datang, insya Allah pada awal September, tanggal 7 September. Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, Pak Rektor juga ingin menyampaikan kepada kita semua bahwa hari ini secara adat UNESA melakukan kegiatan tasyakuran yang mengundang para pimpinan fakultas, para wakil rektor yang saat ini insya Allah masih di Lab Merdeka Belajar dalam rangka untuk mensyukuri nikmat anugerah yang telah dilimpahkan oleh Allah SWT melalui pemeringkatan bahwa tahun ini UNESA mendapat peringkat ke-19 dari lebih dari 4.500 perguruan tinggi di tanah air ini. Ini satu anugerah yang luar biasa karena pada tahun yang lalu kami sebenarnya punya canangan untuk ranking ke-21, tapi alhamdulillah yang terwujud 19. Sebelumnya kami merancang, tahun sebelumnya kami dapat ranking 22 dari target 25. Dan inilah satu hal yang perlu kita syukuri bersama. Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, Pak Rektor juga menyampaikan apresiasi kepada jurusan Bahasa dan Sastra Inggris terkait dengan kegiatan ini. Beliau memesankan bahwa kegiatan ini mestinya juga dilakukan oleh program-program studi yang lain. Kalau program kementerian ada kampus mengajar yang saat ini diarahkan bahwa mahasiswa yang mengajar, tapi juga seharusnya dosen-dosen juga mengajar melalui webinar seperti yang sudah dilakukan oleh jurusan Bahasa dan Sastra Inggris ini, utamanya untuk model yang seri seperti hari ini yang dilakukan. Jadi kampus mengajar tidak hanya mahasiswa yang mengajar di daerah-daerah yang dibutuhkan, tetapi juga dosen-dosen bisa memberikan ilmunya, semacam after sales service kalau kendaraan. Jadi kegiatan yang berkelanjutan, mahasiswa lulusan yang sudah jadi guru perlu dicat hal-hal yang baru. Demikianlah Bapak Ibu yang disampaikan secara lisan oleh Pak Rektor. Mudah-mudahan kegiatan ini berlangsung dengan baik. Saya ingin membacakan sambutan beliau. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Semoga sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Senang sekali mendapatkan informasi bahwa jurusan Bahasa dan Sastra Inggris FBS UNESA terus bergerak dan berbagi kepada komunitas pembelajar di masa pandemi ini. Seri seminar online sudah bergulir selama 2 bulan di setiap hari Rabu mulai awal Juli yang lalu. Dan saat ini sudah menginjak ke pemuncaknya, yakni seri terakhir seperti yang disebutkan tadi, sebagaimana yang telah dirancang sebelumnya. Topik kali ini juga luar biasa, yaitu Trends and Challenges of Creative Writing in Digital Era. Sesi ke-9 ini diselenggarakan melalui kolaborasi dengan HISKI Komisariat UNESA. Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, bukan tanpa alasan jurusan Bahasa dan Sastra Inggris mengangkat tema tersebut, yaitu tentang kecenderungan, tren, dan tantangan kepenulisan yang kreatif di era digital ini. Pada masa pandemi ini, tulisan-tulisan, karya sastra, dan budaya-budaya populer bisa jadi semakin semarak, karena kita semua dipaksa untuk melakukan banyak aktivitas secara daring. Penulisan kreatif di era digital seperti saat ini dapat berfungsi menjadi kanal, menjadi saluran untuk menyalurkan emosi dan kondisi psikologis yang mungkin menekan kehidupan kita sehari-hari. Hadirin yang berbahagia, narasumber kita Profesor Budi Dharma dan Dr. Andes Muhammad Khairi MSI bukanlah sosok baru buat warga UNESA. Pak Budi Dharma adalah begawan sastra kebanggaan UNESA. Nama UNESA dikenal di kalangan luas, baik nasional maupun internasional. Juga salah satunya karena kita memiliki Pak Budi Dharma yang kita cintai bersama ini. Pak Budi dan Pak Khairi adalah para penulis yang produktif. Beliau berdua adalah penulis-penulis yang prolific, sangat produktif, sangat subur, sangat banyak karyanya, dan patut dijadikan teladan oleh kita semua. UNESA senantiasa berkomitmen menjadi pionir dalam pengembangan profesionalisme dosen, guru, mahasiswa, dan pemerhati pendidikan, dan bidang khususnya pada bidang bahasa dan sastra. Salah satu strategi kami adalah dengan seminar daring seperti yang diselenggarakan saat ini, agar dapat menjangkau lebih banyak masyarakat yang sama-sama memerlukan informasi-informasi yang terkini. Moto kami adalah UNESA satu langkah di depan. Saya optimis apa yang kita diskusikan pada hari ini akan membuahkan manfaat bagi kita semua. Apresiasi yang luar biasa saya sampaikan kepada panitia webinar yang tetap antusias dan penuh semangat dalam mengawal seri webinar sampai dengan seri ke-9 kali ini. Bapak Ibu yang kami hormati, dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, seminar daring English UNESA dengan tajuk Trends and Challenges of Creative Writing in the Digital Era saya nyatakan dibuka dan dapat dilanjutkan. Selamat berseminar, salam UNESA, satu langkah di depan. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Rektor Profesor Dr. Nur Hasan M.Kes. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu, selamat berseminar.
Thank you, Prof. Bambang Yulianto,
You're welcome.
for the wonderful speech. So, ladies and gentlemen, before beginning our webinar session, let me read the technical information and rules of this seminar today. So, the technical rules are as the following. Ladies and gentlemen, please help us to make sure that your microphone is always mute, except when you are asked by the moderator to unmute it. And during the talks by the presenters, you are encouraged to write down your question in the chat box using the following format. #ASK, and then your participant's name, your affiliation, and your question. Your question will be addressed to the speaker. You are going to give the question. And the third one, the exit ticket will serve as the attendance list. Remember, exit ticket will serve as the attendance list as well. Only registered participants who are allowed to access the exit ticket link to get their e-certificate. So for those who are listed in the Zoom will be getting the e-certificate. Make sure to fill out the exit ticket and write down correct name and email address. The link to the exit ticket will be shared near the end of the webinar today via Zoom chat. So make sure that you always scroll down or find some link to the exit ticket. The link for the exit ticket is valid for 1 hour only until 1 p.m. And please check your email within 5 to 10 minutes after you submit the exit ticket, because the e-certificates will be automatically generated by system right after you fill out the exit ticket and be sent to your email by system as well. As soon as you find trouble with it, make your complaint right away. Complaint related to exit ticket and e-certificate is valid until 3 p.m. Jakarta time today only. Well, ladies and gentlemen, shortly we'll be coming to the main agenda. That is the webinar on trends and challenges of creative writing in the digital era. For that purpose, let me introduce you to our outstanding speakers today. They are Professor Budi Dharma, PhD. Good morning, Prof. Budi Dharma. And Mr. Muhammad Khairi, MSI. Good morning, Pak Khairi.
Morning, Pak Ali. Yes, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that some of you may have known much of them, but here, let me show you their brief CV. Well, ladies and gentlemen, okay, I think that we are going to start our main session. So let me quote a famous author here. Anton Chekhov, a famous playwright and an author, once said, "My own experience is that once a story has been written, one has to cross out the beginning and the end. It is there that we authors do most of our lying." Remember, lying. It must be underlined here. What exactly does it mean? What can we learn from it? The former half of that question is probably best left to Chekhov scholars. And the later half is easier. The advice is excellent and straightforward if we simply ignore Chekhov's justification. The beginning and the end are less at risk of being full of lies than full of waffle. Waffle is a famous cake for breakfast in America. A famous song by Bob Skaggs once said, "Once a story is told, it can't help but grow old. Roses do, lovers too, so cast your reasons to the wind." So, once a great author starts to narrate his character, he lets his character to choose his own fate and life. This is usually what we could witness from famous authors. Creative writers, ladies and gentlemen, once they start to write their stories, they seem to suspend the ending of their stories. And most importantly, they never stop telling you lies. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let us follow the presentation of the materials concerning our topic today. And the first session is going to be delivered by Mr. Khoiri and subsequently followed by Professor Budi Dharma regarding creative writing in the digital era. Mr. Khoiri and Pak Budi Dharma, the court now is under your control.
Thank you very much, Pak Ali, for the time being given to me. Let me share my material now. Okay. All right, here is my material, trends and challenges of creative writing in the digital era. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Rector of Universitas Negeri Surabaya, Dean of Faculty of Languages and Arts, Ketua Jurusan, colleagues, students, alumni, and so on who attend this seminar. Thank you very much for being given the time to share my little knowledge about trends and challenges here. What we talk about when we talk about creative writing in the digital era. Now, let us start with the first set of the slides. I quote Isaac Asimov. I write for the same reason I breathe, because if I didn't, I would die. On this occasion, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to elaborate the relationship between writer as human being, technology, and creative writing. And then I proceed to discuss the trends and challenges of creative writing. And the last, I'd like to bring the discussion to literary journalism and travel writing. The first session is this: writer and technology and creative writing. How are they related to each other? Let us have a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Let us imagine we see William Shakespeare, who lived in the 16th century, the world's greatest playwright and the greatest writer in the English language. We imagine he is working on his work, Romeo and Juliet. We see that he is writing the play not by using laptop or online creative writing application, but using his handwriting. He uses his handwriting because in his era, there is no laptop or online creative writing application available. From UK, now let us fly to Egypt. Let us see Najib Mahfoud. Najib Mahfoud is a very great writer, the Nobel Prize winner in 1998. Imagine what he is using when he writes his book Midak Ali. Of course, we can see that he is writing the novel as usually he does in the early morning by using a typewriter, sometimes by handwriting too. Of course, he cannot use laptop or online creative writing applications because these two tools are not yet available in his era. From Egypt, now let us fly to Serang, Banten. In Serang, Banten, we can see a very prolific writer with about 128 books, one of which is entitled Balada Si Roy, The Ballad of Roy, and the one who owns Rumah Dunia. He is Heri Hendrayana Haris, with his pen name Mas Golagong. When he writes, he may still use his hand, but mostly, I know, he uses laptop or smartphone mobile applications, depending on situation. Why? Because Mas Gong lives in this digital era in which good technology is available. Ladies and gentlemen, on this occasion, by giving you the illustration, in this case, I mean to show you the relationship between writer, technology, and creative writing. The three writers, Shakespeare, Mahfud, and then Golagong, come from different era, indeed also from different civilizations. They live with different varieties of technology which develop from time to time. In this sense, technology of their era with different varieties of technology, and then in this case, of course, influence them in the way they write, the way they also publish, the way they sell their works. Creative writing, in this case, may also influence back those writers to reflect life, to live life, and create a better writing, or at least inspire the creation of new technology. Well, ladies and gentlemen, and yet we also know that time flies, life changes, man and technology develop, and so do writing genres. That is why if we have conventionally referred creative writing to literary writing, that is prose, poetry, and drama writing, right now, we have to accept the notion creative writing to cover both literary writing and non-literary creative writing. Now we have to accept that literary journalism, travel writing, and so on are actually also creative writing works. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let us see this one. What have you used for writing your work so far? Is technology good or bad for you? Long time ago, of course, when people write without using handwriting, perhaps they use sculpturing, daun lontar, for example. If we have heard of the story. Then, of course, people use handwriting. After that, people use typewriter, and then develop again personal computer. And right now we can use laptop and then our own mobile phones in which we can have mobile creative writing applications. Say, for example, Writer Plus, for example. So which one do you use for your creating your own works in this case? Some people may make use of the modern or the sophisticated tools for helping themselves for creating their own works. Some people not. Okay, answer in your own heart. In what way does technology influence your creative writing? Ladies and gentlemen, now life is full of choices. So it is your choice to do in what way technology will be useful for you for creative writing. It drops into four aspects. The first one is what to write. You may choose to be a specialist. You may also choose to be a generalist. you just want to specialist in a novel writing, for example, but you may also want to acquire writing skills in all genres. It is up to you, but it is also a choice. The next, technology gives you a profession. You know how to write, well facilitated to use the, sophisticated tools, or you keep unfacilitated. You just write your own hand and so on and so forth, so that you leave others to their, millennial way of writing, but you still do with your handwriting, for example. Also, you may want to be a writer with mono-project writing, but some people perhaps have chosen to be somebody with multi-project writings like Pak Putu Wijaya. The next, it deals with how to publish, whether or not you want to use print media or print book, or you use a new media. And then you also have a choice to sell your works, to market your works, offline selling or online selling. All these, of course, all are influenced by technology. It is up to you. Well, now here is the trend. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about trends, I would say that trend follows a market logic. The market logic is this: supply, demand are interrelated. So socio-economically situated and subject to time. So when demand is high, supply is high too. And this is influenced by socio-economic condition. And the last, this depends on time. So this year, the trends like this, perhaps next year or in 5 years, the trends would be different. In this case, ladies and gentlemen, demands comes from socio-economic condition, publishers and readers. When we are in a pandemic situation or condition, for example, then what kind of writing are, demanded by readers? This is one example. Publishers also, they don't want to have their business bankrupt. So they have to think about whether a book is well selling. The last, readers. Readers is, also the determinant factor of the demand in this case. On the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, we have, in this case, supply. Supply is provided by writers, you, we. In my book, writing is selling, menulis itu menjual. I emphasize, writing is selling ideas with well-packaged shapes. It needs sensitivity. Sensitivity is important to observe and predict or create a trend. Only works, only quality works that can be the trendsetters for this trend. Right? I've made the, the identifications of trends of creative writing right now. Several points. The first one, ladies and gentlemen, we see right now the literary works now have been in e-literature. Some of them at least the books are made into ebook. When you have a look at your YouTube, sometimes there is, a posting concerning with read novel. That's one of e-literature. The second one is travel writing. Everybody wants to travel here and there, so that you, some people also want to write this one. Those who haven't written their works, their travel, then I'd like to urge, support you for writing your own travel. Number 3 is human interest or personal writing. I'm happy now that Media Guru, have trained thousands of teachers to write human interest and personal writing. Sometimes I have been with them and know exactly that they write their personal writings and they have published their books, right? The next, number 4, the trend is there is a narrative nonfiction. Narrative nonfiction or narrative journalism. People also call it literary journalism. In this case, I'll tell you a little bit about this, after this. And then also readers demand works, say happy end, love, fantasy, science, horror stories, and so on, like drakor, drama Korea. In this case, because the rate is high because audience wants the drama Korea on TV. The next is identity-based writing, like gender writing, pariwisata writing, and so on and so forth. There is identity, community writing, and so on and so forth. The next is this, imitations of classic works. If we know Pride and Prejudice, you also know right now Pride and Prejudice. And absurd works, yes, because social condition needs people to reflect and think deeply about life. And the last, it is a semi-autobiography, untold stories, which might inspire other people. These are, several points of, trends of writings right now. And how to write. Some people may still using laptop, notepad. Some people write using color note and, on their mobile phone. And then there is a tendency also using online or digital creative writing applications. You have a Writer Plus, your voice transform into text. Some people have used this. And then in America and some Europe, they have used this one. Hemingway, Brainstormer, IA, Writerflow, Overflow, Stellar, and so on. You just open, Google to have a look at the real explanation about this. But some people have used this, particularly students. Hemingway, for example, this application in which when you put your text, then the text will give you suggestion whether this one is good or not. And then how to publish. Right now in transition, some in print books and print media, and then also newspapers, magazine. I'm happy also. The next one is there is in the emerging power of self-publisher. The emerging power of self-publisher. And then leading to this one, e-book right now, rather than bringing books from one place to another, then you just put in your mobile phone. There is an e-book, e-media, and new media. You keep your writing, you publish your writing in website, blog, Facebook, and so on, Tumblr, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook Live, and so on and so forth.
Excuse
And the
me, Pak
last,
Freddy, your time.
yes, thank you.
Yeah, you still have 8 minutes.
Yes,
8 more minutes.
thank you.
Okay.
Okay. And the last, you sell your writing. To support your publisher, you may also help them by putting your writing in Facebook. You see, there are 1.45 billion users a day. Also in YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Google Plus. So this will help, sell their work using offline selling, by seminar, exhibition, and so on and so forth. Now the challenges of creative writing actually mostly go to writers and authors and critics or students of creative works. However, I'd like to address this to us. In terms of works, how can we prioritize quality more than quantity in the plethora of information and sophisticated online writing application? Never get spoiled. Jangan manja di sini. How can we always avoid plagiarism? Or how are we responsible for the copyrights and intellectual property? And in terms of publications, how can we adapt to the use of new media to publish our writings, beside the print books via self-publishers and in transition time? And the last, in terms of selling, how can we adapt to the use of new media to sell our writings? Now, this one, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to show you 2 examples of non-literary creative writing. So, literary journalism or narrative nonfiction or creative nonfiction. It is a form of nonfiction that combine factual reporting with narrative techniques and stylistic strategies traditionally associated with fiction. I should underline that this is fact. This writing is full, the main material is fact, but the package is literary style. So this, I would say this is not fiction. I would stress this is not fiction. This is non-fiction, a narrative non-fiction. Okay, say for example, you can see here in Cold Blood, Truman Capote, published for the first time in 1965, now also republished 2016, 17 rather, and so on and so forth. There are, I give these 3 examples. Literary journalism, travel writing. And travel writing is, you just, there's writing about places, persons, and things in other places, different from our place here. Also writing about how to travel, when to travel, advice on traveling, all with the reader in mind. It's about relaying your travel experiences to others. So, but in, it is in a literary way. I would say there is, for example, the best women travel writing, the best writing, travel writing. And this one, Ekspedisi Jejak Peradaban NTT, written by journalist Kompas. This is a very good writing. Okay, so Dahlan Iskan, Golagong are, some example of this. Well, now let's decide to write what we must write. Events at home, at work, in the street. These are the basis for a story. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sudah. Oh ya.
Prof. Budi Dharma.
Yes, Pak Budi. Right now, the next would be, continued by Professor Budi Dharma.
Okay, thank you very much. Pak Ali, you are a good moderator.
Thank you, yes, Bapak.
And Pak Hoiri, your presentation was superb indeed. Now we are going to talk about trends and challenges in creative writing today, but the emphasis now is not on digital creative writing, but on written creative writing, okay? Now we understand, of course, that under the United Nations, there is a body which is called UNESCO. The focus of UNESCO's function is education. And if we see UNESCO, we will see that there are 4 pillars of education. The 4 pillars are, number 1, learning to know. Number 2, learning to do. Number 3, learning to be. And number 4, learning to live together. What does it mean? Learning to know is trying to understand what actually is the meaning of creative writing. And learning to do, of course, it means to write creative writing. And then number 3, learning to be, it means, of course, learning to be a creative writing. And then pillar number 4, learning to live together. It means, of course, that if we want to write creative writing, we must have networking. Now, writing fiction, okay, poetry, drama, the short story, the novel, and so on. This is very clear indeed. Of course, we understand recently we have, as well, what Pak Hoiri told us, so many genres like travel, okay, and so many other genres. And now to have good networking. If we are creative writers, then it is necessary for us to know fellow creative writers. And then also to know editors, because, you know, editors have the power to change the text, have the power, of course, to turn down a text or manuscript. And then we have also to know critics, because critics, you know, can give comments on your works. And certainly some creative writers need the opinions of critics. And then certainly, of course, if we are creative writers, it is necessary for us to know publishers. And because books are distributed through bookstores, we have also to know bookstores owners. And now there is something new, actually, which does not exist in Indonesia. This is literary agent. In Indonesia, if you want to publish a manuscript, say a book, you can send your manuscript directly to the publisher. But in other countries, the system is the same. If you want to, you have a manuscript, say a manuscript of a novel, and then you want to publish, it is usually not necessary for you to send your manuscript directly to the publishers, but through literary agents. You can have negotiations with literary agents. Maybe the literary agents will ask you to change some sentences, some scenes to make the characters stronger and so on. So in a way, literary agents also act as editors. And besides being like editors, literary agents also have good connections with so many publishers. Okay, that's why you just leave your manuscript to literary agents, and the literary agents will try to find the most appropriate publisher for your work. And now we are going to talk whether or not to be a creative writer, whether or not we must have good talent or not. In this case, this is Professor Watson. He's a famous behaviorist, and this is his opinion. In a way, Professor Watson is also was also influenced by Jefferson's Declaration of Independence that all men are equal. And then this is the statement of Professor Watson. Okay. Give me some healthy infants, healthy babies, healthy infants. Give them to me. Do you want to make one of them to be captain industry? I can make it. Do you want to, do you want to make one of them to be a good piano player? I can make it. It means, of course, that, actually human beings like, human beings can be conditioned. It means human beings can be conditioned. It means, of course, that gift or talent actually can be conditioned, can be made by what? Of course, by good exercises. Sorry. Now, okay. The following is, let's talk a little bit about Subagyo Sastrowardoyo. You know, he is the uncle of Dian Sastro, the movie star. Subagyo Sastrowardoyo is a short story writer, poet, essayist, critic, and theater director. And Subhagya Sastrawardaya has written an essay, a very good and influential essay, and the title of the essay is Natural Gift and Intellectualism. Natural gift and intellectualism. In this case, he compared two generations in recent literature. The first generation is the Kisah generation. Kisah generation was in the 1950s. The short story writers of Kisah generation published their works, their short stories in a magazine which is called Kisah Literary Magazine. According to him, according to Subhagya Sastrawardaya, this generation, the writers of Kisah generation, all of them depended themselves only on their natural gift. That's why their works are mostly about their own experiences, biographical experiences, okay, transferred into literary works. And if someone only writes about himself or only write about his experiences without reading, without any intellectual challenges, of course, the talent would not be developed. And that's why after these writers of generation, Kisah generation, wrote many works based on their personal experiences, they could not write any longer because they depended themselves only on natural gift. What about the Horizon generations, whose works were published in Horizon Literary Magazine, starting from the late 1960s up to early 1980s. They read a lot. They watched everything a lot. They discussed a lot with their friends. So in this case, because they have intellectualism, not only natural talent, that's why, these writers of Horizon generation could develop themselves and the quality of their works are guaranteed. The following one is what actually is the meaning of inspiration. On the left side hand, you can see Thomas Alva Edison, and on the right side hand, you can see, of course, a famous writer whose name is Stephen King. Now, Thomas Alva Edison, he was, of course, a poor boy. He had to sell newspapers on the train, and he, took a rest. And then he could see that the railway, steel, and the wheel of the train, to it. Then there's sparks of fire. This is inspiration. He could see the sparks of fire. This is inspiration. And based on this inspiration, he developed his inspiration. He made some experiments, and then he could create electricity and film, starting from small things. That's why, according to him, inspiration only functions as 1%, and then the rest is working hard or perspiration. So everybody actually, is to do this one. And then Stephen King, we have talked about, Thomas Alva Edison, and now let's talk about Stephen King. One day, he went out of town, and then he stopped for a while, around the gas station, and he took a walk here and there, and he could see something, one thing. This is the inspiration. And because of the inspiration, he could write horror works or horror novels. There are some other examples, of course. For instance, this writer was a close friend of Amy Tan. They worked together, they discussed together, they played band together music, and he got the inspiration. So, inspiration is important, and yet the working hard in order to develop the inspiration into a great writing is more important. And this is Emily Dickinson, a very important poet. According to Emily Dickinson in one of her poems, success is counted sweetest by those who never succeed. To comprehend a nectar requires sorest need. It means, of course, that the one who can be successful is the one who was a failure. If someone, writes and he fails, this is good. In a way, it is good because you can develop 90% of 1% the inspiration. That's why, according to her, hard work reaps success. And now let's talk about, some successful Indonesian writers who are now abroad. This is Clarissa Gunawan, and this is, of course, Jenar Maisa Ayu, and this is Intan Paramadita, and this is Laksmi Pamunca. Excuse me, I cannot see. Yeah. Okay, wait a minute. Yeah, the following this one. Ya, sebelahnya di sini. Okay, thank you very much. And this is Tiffany Chow. Now let's talk about them. Clarissa Gunawan. She was born in our town, Surabaya. She often visited Malang, and she moved for good to Singapore. Now she's in Singapore. She writes in Indonesian and English. Her novels, Rainbirds and The Perfect World of Miwako Subida. In this case, she wrote the manuscript in Indonesian to be published in Indonesia. And she wrote the same novel in English and published in England and the United States of America. He sent the manuscript directly to the publisher in Indonesia. And she had a very hard work to get the right literary agent. She wrote to many literary agents, but they did not answer. And then she got the right literary agent. The literary agent read her works, the Rainbirds and The Perfect World of Miwako Subida. And then the literary agents tried to get publishers. And then the literary agent could get a publisher, okay, in America. And then through this literary agent, she can publish her works, especially in America. But today, her novels have been also published in the United Kingdom. And now, this novel, Rainbirds, won Bath Literary Award 5 years ago. Now, she also won other awards from abroad for her short stories because, among the things, because of the literary agent. Now, this is Clarsha Gunawan's Rainbirds. The town in this novel, everything is Japanese. The town in this novel is Akakawa in Japan. But actually, Akakawa actually is not in Japan, but this is Malang, not far from Surabaya. The central character is Japanese. All of the characters are Japanese. And in this case, if you read this novel, you can see, of course, the application of Baudrillard theory of simulation, simulacra, hyperreality, and so on. Now, Jenar Maesa Ayu. Jenar Maesa Ayu, okay, yeah. Jenar Maesa Ayu is a product of broken home. She did not finish elementary school. She was street child wandering in Jakarta together with other bums. They're often caught by the police and detained by the police. But because of her intellectualism, she tried hard to be a self-made creative writer. As a self-made creative writer, she did not feel inferior to big shots, including the ambassadors of several countries in Jakarta. She is often invited to go abroad. And now her works were often reprinted. She currently lives in Singapore. And then Intan Paramadita a PhD from New York University. She wrote horror stories, and okay, it is her works have been described focusing on in the intersection gender and sexuality, culture, and politics. She now is in Australia. And then Lakshmi Pamuncha. She wrote many novels and okay, yeah, culinary books. Currently, she lives in Germany. Her masterpiece Amba got many prizes, and then this novel, okay, was considered as one of the best novels in Frankfurt Book Fair in 2015. And maybe you know this movie, Lidah Aruna. The actress is Dian Sastro. Actually, it was based on her novel. Now, Tiffany Xiao, Indonesian American Australian. He got his PhD in Berkeley. She often went to Indonesia, Singapore, Australia, and because she was born in America, she also often visited the United States of America. Her novel is Under Your Wings, published in Australia through Literary Agent. And because the publishers in the United States was interested in this novel, that's why the publisher in the United States also published this novel with different titles. Under Your Wings, and then change the title, The Majesties, and recently the publishers in UK were also interested in this novel. That's why it has been published in UK, and the title is also The Majesties. We can skip. Tiffany Xiao is also translated, awardee of Pen Presents and Pen Translate prizes. She has translated many Indonesian works. And prerequisite of literacy, okay, has good insight into life, reads inspirational readings, reads natural phenomena, and so on. This is, of course, intellectuality, not simply natural gift, but intellectuality. And we can see, of course, that intellectuality does not happen only in literature, but also in law. We can see here expert of constitutional law, Jimli Asidiki, okay? And of course, the stress of writing, or the emphasis is quality, not quantity. Now we can see, of course, a kind of mental disease, FOMO, fear of missing out. We can talk about FOMO, okay, after this presentation. And final notes, of course, everybody can try to write fiction. 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. If you write a fiction, it is not necessary for you to be a creative writer, but this is an exercise in order to sharpen and make your insight into life better. Thank you very much, Ali, thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much, Prof. Budi Dharma. Thank you for the wonderful presentation for both Pak Khoiri and Prof. Budi Dharma. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to Q&A session, I should like to remind you second time, the exit ticket will serve as the attendance list as well. So only registered participants who are allowed to access the exit ticket link to get e-certificate. Make sure to fill out the exit ticket and write correct name and email address. And the link to the exit ticket will be shared near the end of the webinar today. So make sure that you have to check out the chat room. Scroll down to find out the link of the exit ticket. And please check your email within 5 to 10 minutes after you submit the exit ticket, because the e-certificates will be automatically generated by system right after you fill out the exit ticket and be sent to your email by system as well. As soon as you find trouble with it, if you find some trouble connecting the exit ticket, make your complaint right away, because complaints related to exit ticket and e-certificate is valid until 3 p.m. today only. So ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to Q&A session. And there are some questions here that have been noted here, and I would like to read the question for the presenters. The first question is from Ibu Sirikit Shah. Ibu Sirikit Shah asked about, what do the speakers think about copylifting? I mean, does copyright still matter in this digital era and free market of ideas? So Pak Khoiri and also Prof. Budi Dharma, would you please answer the first question directly?
Okay, could you please? Okay. Could you please
Bapak
repeat
or
the
me?
question? Excuse me. Could you please repeat the question, Pak Ali?
Okay. What do the speakers think about copylifting? Copylifting. I mean, does copyright still matter in this digital era and free market of ideas? Copylifting is the synonym of copyright.
Okay.
Pak Budi, you may go first, Pak.
Pak Khoiri first, please.
All right. Thank you very much, Bapak. Pak Ali also. I'd like to answer Mbak Sirikit's questions. Hello, Mbak Sirikit. I want to give my opinion about this copyrights. I think copyright always matter, Mbak Sirikit. That is why we are, urged not to do plagiarism. Although the practice, or in fact, many people conduct, plagiarism, and in this, sophisticated gadget, then people may send hoax and so on and so forth. It seems that once copyrights are not valued by people. However, I think copyright still and will always matter. If the practice is what happening in Indonesia, we have to struggle for that. We have to attack. I think so. Normally, we have to attack the practice of copylifting. Because the situation is like this in Indonesia, one day, Cak Nun, MH Nun Najib, told us in a forum that because my books might be hijacked, copylifted here and there, then if I bring this to the court, it will be no solutions, then okay, let me make it as a charity. seperti jariah begitu saja. Because if we bring it to the court, it will fail also. But in the West, where copyrights have already been well valued, then copyright is, really matters. In Indonesia, citation, for example, right now is going to grow. We in academic writing, yes, Turnitin right now is used to see whether one's writing, is own its copyright by somebody else. So I think here we need law enforcement concerning with copyright and intellectual properties. It's just I told in my, the challenges of creative writing in my presentation. That's all, Mbak Siriki. Thank you for very good question. Pak Budi.
Okay, thank you very much. Concerning copyrights, you have two choices. The first choice is sell the copyright. You get the money and that's all. It means if the publisher wants to publish your work, you don't have any right to send your manuscript to another publisher because you have sold the copyright. This is the first thing. The second thing is the copyright is still in your hand and you are a publisher to publish. So the copyright is in the hand of the creative writer and the right to publish is in the hand of the publisher. In this case, okay, suppose you have given the right to publish only. Your copyright is still yours. And then suddenly a filmmaker is interested in your book and the filmmaker wants to make a film, a movie based on your book, then what about the royalty? The royalty is yours, still yours, and the royalty and the right to make movie is in the hand of the movie writer or the movie maker. And in this case, what about the money? 50% goes to the publisher, 50% goes to the writer. Suppose, you have a novel, you publish it, and then your novel, movie maker is interested. Okay, 50% for me, 50% for the publisher. This is also in the sense of translation. If a publisher is interested in your work, the publisher wants to translate. Another publisher, say abroad, wants to translate. Then 50% will go to your publisher in Indonesia, and 50% will go to you. And of course, if you have sold your copyright, it is risky because if you want to publish based on your novel or your manuscript, you have to rebuy your copyright so that your copyright is now yours because you have paid a certain amount of money to buy back your copyright. Okay, maybe this is the explanation.
Okay, the second question is directly addressed to Bapak Muhammad Khairi. And the question is from Luffy Wirmarini Lukman. She is one of our students in English department. As a writer in the reader's demand works, how to predict the reader's interest? Should writers start with the trending topics, such as what is in science fiction, and relate with the writer's experience, problems and solutions to write based on the fantasy that is trending to write in the world?
Okay.
So,
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Ali. Okay, thank you very much, Pak Ali. Thank you, Lutfi Wirmarni Lokman. Your question is very good. There are three alternatives, I think, to read the, or to create trends. In this case, to read the reader's demand. The first one is you just told us about, you follow the existing trend, right? Science fiction. In this case, when people like science fiction, then you follow and write science fiction. It means that you follow the emerging trends on the science fiction writing. The first one. The other one, this is very practical. You contact publishers or book reviewers. So there is also publishers and book reviews. Book reviewers. You can ask them, because they are reviewing that, what people usually want to read. Then you may ask them. You have to, get connected to them. You may ask them what actually themes right now demanded by readers. You may have, the answers from them. Number three, you may also, read the society. As a writer, you have to be a good reader too. You have to be a good reader too. You read newspapers, you listen to, you watch TV, and so on and so forth. And you know exactly what society's condition. Say right now, when people are depressed, actually, right now in the pandemic situation, many people are depressed. In this case, they want to have some enlightenment. They want to have some refreshment, mental refreshment, spiritual refreshment. In this case, you can write, a book or writing concerning how to live spirit, how to live motivation, how to live reflections of life, and so on and so forth. So this can be practiced and this can be exercised so that day by day, your sensitivity will be stronger. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Khairi. Now, the third question is for Prof. Budi Dharma and also for Pak Khairi. The question is from Bu Isna Denuriah, UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya. The first one is song a creative writing? Is song a creative writing? And secondly, is podcast, which cannot be read but can be listened, a creative writing too? So the first one is song a creative writing? And secondly, is podcast also a creative writing too?
Number one is what?
Song,
Huh?
a song.
A song.
Yes.
Okay, song. And then number two?
Podcast.
Huh? Oh,
Podcast.
podcast. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Pak
In this
Budi, you may
case,
go first, Pak Buba.
maybe we can have a break for a while. It is Azan, you know. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, about song. Song, of course, is a literary work in the sense that the lyrics actually are poetry. If we want to know about song, which then rewritten into a novel, we can see, of course, Murakami, the Japanese novelist and short story writer. One day, he was listening to the Beatles song. I don't remember the title of the Beatles song. And Murakami was listening to this song. And then he got the inspiration and he wrote a novel based on this novel, based on this song. And concerning podcast, of course, this is something new. Maybe if we want to try to write, it's better for us to write in Wattpad, because you see, Wattpad is more accessible to the public, and also the writer can express what he or she wants to express. Among the things, because what in Wattpad there is no curator, there is also no editor, so that the writer can write what he wants to write. This is, of course, one of the steps of exercises without being controlled by editor, without being controlled by curator. Later on, of course, you can write better and better. Maybe this is the answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prof. Budi Dharma. Now, the fourth question is also for Prof. Budi Dharma from Ibu Laksmi, Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jawa Timur. The question is, according to Mr. Nuh, the former Ministry of Education, in this pandemic condition, the 4 pillars of education is followed by learn how to learn. What do you think about this, and how a creative writers should apply it? Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, learning to learn?
Learning to learn.
Learning to?
Learn how to learn. Learn how to learn.
Learn how to learn.
Yes, learn how to learn.
Learn how to learn. Yeah, if we go back to the 4 pillars of education created by UNESCO, one of the points is learning to be, learning to know. That's another point. And now, how to learn, or learning by learning. In this case, the question is, or the answer is, you can read a lot of inspiring books. Okay, books that can inspire you. You can read, of course, short stories that inspire you. You can read poems that can inspire you. You can watch movies that inspire you, or listening to the song that inspire you. The problem is, in this case, you need to be inspired. And in order to get inspiration, of course, you have to travel a lot, not to travel physically, but the travel of the mind. This is learning how to learn by learning. Okay, that is maybe the answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Budi Dharma. Now, the 5th question is also addressed to Professor Budi Dharma. It's from Dihliza Basha, Universitas Islam Jember. During writing academic journals on literature, the most difficult step is theoretical positioning to conduct high-quality citation. My question is how to classify theory-generating experts, research expert, and practitioners for a great theoretical positioning. Review of related literature. Thank you so much.
Okay,
so
thank you. But is it possible for you to repeat the points of the question, please?
How to classify theory-generating experts.
Okay.
And then research expert,
Okay.
and then practitioners for a great theoretical positioning. So probably this question is too theoretical, yeah? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. This is, of course, a very good question.
Yeah.
Maybe, I cannot answer this question in details, but if you write whatever writing you want to write, whether this is short story, a novel, or whatever, you must have the challenge to conduct research. In this case, I would like to tell you that in the past, especially the generation of the 50s, they did not try to find inspiration. But then, later on, in the development of our time, most writers, most creative writers, conduct researches. Maybe you are familiar with Dewi Lestari Simangunsong, or sometimes she is called D. She has written a lot of works, and before she started to write her work, she went to many other places to see the situation, to see the people, in order that she can write good fiction work. And maybe you are also familiar with Oki Madasari. When she was writing about a conflict in the area of Mataram, she went there, interviewed people, and then based on the data, she wrote the novel. And today, if a work has been written and the reader can understand the theory beyond the novel, it would be better. Even though in writing a creative, say, novel, the writer, is not thinking of theory, but she has read a lot. She has gone to many places to conduct research. And they have, like what Clarcia Gunawan, even though she did not think of writing based on a certain theory, the reader then will understand, oh, this is the theory of Baudrillard. So in this case, research, watching movies, going to other places, interviewing with people, reading newspapers, reading books, inspiring books, and so on. Okay, this is called research. And then you write, even though you are thinking about the research, if your work is good, people will understand, oh, you can apply this theory to this novel. Okay, maybe it is my answer is not clear, but this is based on what we have today. For instance, if we read the novel of Oki Madasari, we read the novels of D. Lestari Simangunsong, and also the novel of Clarissa Gunawan. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Budi Dharma. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that we have some questions, but the questions seem similar to one another. So, I just like to summarize the question. And the next question will be about procrastination in creative writing, how to overcome it. Procrastination in creative writing, how to overcome it.
Okay, is it maybe Pak Hoyri can answer this question, Pak?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Ali. Is it like postponing? Well, I think any writers have, a time in which he or she has a trouble or in the writing process. He or she has some writer's block. Writer's block happens because he or she cannot continue his writing process. And that is natural. Everybody experiences this one. Well, I think the case will be different from one person to another. For me, for example, actually I have written this in one of my books, Rahasia Top Menulis. There are several, tips to overcome writer's block. In this case, the key is this: when we have planned our writing, say, for example, we plan to write a book, so long as we have, careful outline, then this outline will help us. When we have to stop because of our busyness, because of our works and so on and so forth, then when we have spare, we can continue the writing. Some writers finish her or his books, within several years. Okay, several years. It means that there are several times he or she experiences writer's block. Perhaps because of his or her busyness and during these years. So long that he or she still focus on the subject he or she is working on, then I think it will be all right. There are many ways to make you triggered in such a way that you can start. But the key is you must have commitment to continue. Writing your works must be your obligation. Yeah. So whenever time allows you to write, then do it. Yeah. Thank you very much. Pak Budi, monggo.
Okay. Thank you very much. This is about writer's block. Writer's block, of course, is something common. And in this case, I would like to give you an example how a writer copes with the problems of writer's block. In Russia, there was a great short story writer and novelist. His name is Alexander Pushkin. Alexander Pushkin often writes sentences that he got from out of the blue that he got from reading, and then, okay, she cuts his papers, put on the wall, so many sentences on the walls of his office, of his working office. And if he got writer's block, then he went from this part of the wall, looking at one sentence or two sentences, going to another part of the wall, and he then got inspiration to restart the writing. It was in the past, Alexander Pushkin, but we can do it if we want to. How to cope with the problem of writer's block? Not necessarily, of course, not necessarily by, okay, looking back at your sentences, but maybe you can read an inspiring book. You can read, or maybe you can listen to a song, everything which is inspiring. It might continue, it might enable for you to continue your work. Okay, so this is one of the ways of coping with the problem of writer's block. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Prof. Budi Dharma. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that we still have some more questions, but we should like to remind you that if you still want to discuss about creative writing together with Professor Budi Dharma and also Mr. Muhammad Khairi, we are going to open a very good discussion in our podcast broadcasting after the webinar session in the next period, or maybe next time. But we should like to remind you that our YouTube channels for all of the webinar sessions of the English department are still on in YouTube channels. So you still can access the YouTube channels there. So please give us your likes. And also we would like to remind you that the exit ticket has been shared in the room chat in our Zoom. Yeah. So please scroll down the link and please fill out your correct name and also the email address, because the e-certificate will be generated and sent directly to your email address right away. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are sorry that we could not answer all of the questions, but I would like to say thank you so much for Professor Budi Dharma and also Mr. Muhammad Khairi for the outstanding presentations and great insights of creative writing. And ladies and gentlemen, I should like to conclude. This is the concluding remark of our discussion today regarding creative writing. So to be a creative writer, one should learn to write again and again, on and on, as his or her creative process practice. And try to write narrative stories, poems, or plays to make you become a better creative writer. And then it is not necessary to write so many works unless you could produce good works. So we should rely on quality rather than quantity. Go traveling and experience so many things in life will sharpen your better improvement of your works. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we should like to say thank you so much for our webinar today. Thank you for joining and participating. And please give big hands to our two outstanding speakers, Professor Budi Dharma and also Bapak Muhammad Khairi. Thank you so much, everyone. Please be aware of the link for the exit ticket, and thank you so much. Thank you for listening and have a great time, and see you again in the next webinar from our department. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
I can see you standing, honey, with his arms around your body, laughing, but the joke's not funny at all. And it took you 5 whole minutes to pack us up and leave me with it, holding all this love out here in the hall. I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. You're not my homeland anymore, so what am I defending now? You were my town, now I'm in exile seeing you out. I think I've seen this film before.
See you staring, honey, like he's just your understudy, like he'd get your knuckles bloody for me. Second, third, and 100th chances, balancing on breaking branches. Those eyes add insult to injury. I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. I'm not your problem anymore, so who am I offending now? You were my crown, now I'm in exile seeing you out. I think I've seen this film before, so I'm leaving out the side door.
So step right out. There is no amount of cry I can do for all this time. We always walked a very thin line. You didn't even hear me out.
Didn't even hear me
You never
out.
gave a warning
I
sign.
gave so many
All this
signs.
time, I never learned to read your
Never
mind.
learned to read my
I
gather here, we line up, weeping in a sunlit room. And if I'm on fire, you'll be made of ashes too. Even on my worst day, did I deserve, babe, all the hell you gave me? 'Cause I loved you, I swear I loved you, till my dying day. I didn't have it in myself to go with grace, and you're the hero flying around saving face. And if I'm dead to you, why are you at the wake, cursing my name, wishing I stayed? Look at how my tears ricochet. We gather stones, never knowing what they'll mean. Some to throw, some to make a diamond ring. You know I didn't want to have to haunt you, but what a ghostly scene. You wear the same jewels that I gave you as you bury me. I didn't have it in myself to go with grace, 'cause when I'd fight, you used to tell me I was brave. And if I'm dead to you, why are you at the wake, cursing my name, wishing I stayed? Look at how my tears ricochet. And I can go anywhere I want, just not home. And you can aim for my heart, go for blood, but you would still miss me in your bones. And I still talk to you when I'm screaming at the sky. And when you can't sleep at night, you hear my stolen I didn't have it in myself to go with grace, and so the battleships will sink beneath